Yeah, I really do think website blog makes sense. I know we talked about this some time ago,
Yeah.
so
Now
that's
I
the
should
best.
be able to see somewhere how many people are actually watching. How did this work again?
Mm.
One watching now. That's probably me
Oh,
though.
I can remove myself from the stage. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, if you want to. uh, Sound off. Um,
Hello,
no.
everybody.
Yes. Hello, no one.
Well, we could bring Candice back on the stage. We can
No,
at
that's
least
a good
chat to
idea.
her. But yeah,
Um,
so no, I did not read your blog or LinkedIn, whichever it was on LinkedIn. I don't know. Do they call them posts on LinkedIn? I think they do, right? Like X. But yeah, I find that these AIs, I don't think it's necessarily tuned, but I think sometimes they get lazy. There was actually a little note about them getting lazier in December because they're mimicking human training data and then getting lazier on weekends.
I think what happened in this case was that they are trying to prevent themselves from getting into. So maybe to go back to the beginning, we were talking about how these LLMs are going up and down in responsiveness and usefulness of what they provide. Yesterday, I was trying to get a list of podcasts with the viewership and source URL from ChatGPT, and it just refused high and low until I asked, "Pretty please," to do it, and then I did get the answers that I was looking for. And it's a little weird because I think they were trying to protect themselves from getting into copyright
Ye
challenges where they get blamed for people scraping web pages. So it refused to get a
yes.
list of podcasts from from a single website. It had no problem in giving that list once I said, just give me a list of popular podcasts. And then I copy pasted the list from the one conversation into a new conversation so that the context window is gone. And then it also had no problem in looking up the sources
Yep.
of the podcast. So,
Okay, so yes, okay, fair enough. So it was worried about copyright violation, and potentially the one before that did cause a worry was not just copyright, but also maybe that particular place had the equivalent of the X no archive, GPT bot equals no
yeah,
or colon no, so it might have prevented scraping easily.
yeah,
And yes, you're right. Copyright issues are becoming a bit of an issue because I think the New York Times, for example, is actually suing OpenAI, and you can see that they have all become reactive. So OpenAI's DALI and Google's Gemini, they have basically both stopped generating. Even like, let's say you say I would like to generate an image of a bookshelf, and on the bookshelf I'd like 20 book titles that are best for data engineers. It will not generate those spines. It will give you a list of the best books for data engineers to read, but in the image it will generate it'll basically it's forced to hallucinate and not give you spines because of spine copyright.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't even know this was a thing until a few weeks ago when I myself tried to generate a book image of a bookshelf. I didn't actually know that. I knew the pages the front page was copyrighted, but I didn't know your spines could also be copyrighted.
oh, no, I didn't know that neither. So that
Yeah,
nobody
so
can steal the title
that
of your
was a bit
book
of
or your author
insanity.
name.
Well, the title of your book anyone can actually redo, definitely, but the spine is also part of the design. And so the spine is like the cover. You can't actually copy another cover officially. So you can't also copy a spine. And I didn't know that. I
Interesting.
mean, we are so used to reading computer books where the spines are actually pretty boring. If you look at
Yeah.
the average O'Reilly book. but it turns out that spines are also under copyright. So I was
And let
quite
me ask you a
amused.
question. Are you read up on the EU AI Act?
I have read up a little bit of it. I also know that they've vaguely passed it.
No,
I have not read the.
they passed it really hard this week.
Yeah, so I've only seen the media reports of it, not actually read the entire act. It's probably longer than it needs to be. So no, not read the full act. Have you read the full act?
I have not read the full act. I have work to do. But there's
What we
stuff.
should do is ask ChatGPT to summarize it for us.
There's quite a lot of things in there that I blindly agree with that are not crazy. Like you can't use AI to influence people's opinion. You can't do a whole bunch of stuff. But one of the things in there is you can't publicly collect biometric information. So you can't just put a finger screen, facial recognition up somewhere and start recognizing people, which is interesting. It's a very different direction of where
Yeah,
China went.
which might be explain also why the WorldCoin has been getting banned in some places now as well. So WorldCoin is the crypto coin that is generated that's Sam Altman's investment, and what it does is it scans your eyeball, and then it gives you some cryptocurrency in return, and they've been getting banned from place to place, which is, I guess, now quite
This
interesting
does
as
not
to
seem like
why.
something I would ever do.
Oh, but why not?
It's the same reason I wouldn't do 23andMe.
It's I've done 23andMe. I love it.
Yeah, but
Until they
then they
got
get
hacked,
hacked,
of
and now
course.
now your genetic data is all over the
Yeah,
place.
yeah. Well, I did not really opt in for the whole. I would like to be finding my, ancestors, but you are absolutely right. I unfortunately do not have the ability to now ensure my genetic data isn't floating on the internet. It probably is. By the way, why you would scan your eye? This world coin is now worth 992 per coin. And I don't know how much coins you get for scanning your iris. Actually, it's not, well, with cryptocurrency, it's now 947. So I every time I tell you something, it'll change.
I know.
So so if you do scan your iris, I think you get one world coin. Is it? Just not a lot of it. Not that
It's
much, but
$9 for your retina information. That seems
yeah.
off.
Oh no,
Where's that
actually, you know
going?
what? Incorrect. In August 2023, in Kenya, you get 25 WLD tokens. 25 WLD tokens at say $10 each is actually quite a bit of cash now. It's $250. If you're in Kenya, this might be interesting.
And who gets that data?
The WorldCoin organization. It's an iris biometric um, project. So it basically goes to um, Sam Altman and his founders. It's actually backed by Andreessen Horowitz. So there is not just crazy AI guy involved. There is also huge VC money behind it.
This is an interesting business model, right? Because for them to generate the actual crypto doesn't cost them any money. So basically, they're giving you're giving them your iris information for free.
Yep. And then they give you money back in return. And since we're on the
Yeah,
topic of
they don't give you money back in
EU
return. They give you crypto
regulations,
that you can sell to
they,
someone else for extra money. We have a question from
yeah, you've got 25 WLD, which you can then convert to Bitcoin. And if you convert the Bitcoin, $250 of Bitcoin, next week it could be worth 500 if it doubles in price. If
we have a question from LinkedIn. The question is: have you looked at Devin, the AI programmer thing?
yes, so all I've seen of Devin actually at the moment is our videos. I've actually signed up to join the beta. They haven't given me beta access yet. Uh, and my general thoughts of Devin, very much like I thought of Copilot and all these tools, is you should learn to program and use these tools to make you program faster. So I think Walter, you've actually exemplified this because it was what 2 days ago that I reviewed a pull request of yours that you spent a bit of time, a large pull request where you spent maybe a bit of time generating it via a lot of Copilot, I'm guessing,
No, yeah, some of
usage.
it was Copilot, but it was Terraform code. So you're right. So I already knew Terraform, and then
Yep.
it accelerates
But it
with
made you go
Terraform.
faster, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it just goes
So
faster.
so 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 if you were going to write all of that, say in 3 hours, and you managed to write it all in 1 hour, I think you're winning because you just gained 2 hours of productivity thanks to AI.
Yeah, and there's another thing that happens that I noticed that maybe I can show it on screen actually.
I
Uh,
was trying to actually review it inside code spaces, but it was so large that reviewing it in a web browser wasn't so good for me.
yeah, I mean this is my
So
bad.
I,
This is
so so I
so.
so I also thought, hey, let me try the AI generated stuff, but it was okay. I read it manually.
Let me see if I can share this on the screen.
So to be very clear, I'm extremely excited by Devin. I expect more people to be programmers. I take AI and Devin and the likes as accelerants to no code tools. We already had a huge impact on no code tools, and before no code tools, people were doing huge impacts on like writing VBA or JavaScript for your Google workspaces. So I think this is only going to get better when more people can tell computers to do what they want it to do. It is only going to make our lives better,
Yeah, I mean
including
some of the comments
programmers.
I
Actually, like
saw.
I wouldn't worry about our jobs.
I think some of the comments I saw is if you're purely a programmer doing nothing on top of that, you're going to probably be in danger of these tools eventually. Not right now, but that's going to be challenging. But if you're a software engineer, architect type of person, then you'll be fine at least for the foreseeable future. I don't see these tools.
Yeah, my logic is very simple, right? Like, why would you test someone on, say, give me the best way to do a quick sort, for example, right? That's no longer even a good interview test, if you ask me, because the reality is, if you've not written a quick sort in a long time, or you don't like using functions,
Hopefully,
you'd probably just go look at you'd ask your AI tool to help you, and before that, you'd go Google it, right? And most likely, you'll end up on Stack Overflow or Reddit or something, but now you'll just ask your AI tool to help you write a quick sort. So as long as you have the general idea of what to do with it, why do you want to spend time already doing boilerplate stuff? As computing folk, we've always done lots of templating, right? Cool.
true.
So yeah,
Let me show you what I did on the screen here. Let me see if I can make that a little more readable. So, reasons why I like the Copilot stuff is that, let's say, I have this here. This line asks an email address from a user. And now, actually, I wanted to take the default to the email address of the new user if no email address is provided. So I type that, and then I type the first few letters because I did it here. So this bit, actually, let me not do it live here, but this bit here, this last bit, I would not have written this if I was doing this because it's a simple script that isn't going to be run by hundreds of people. We'll run it maybe 10 times a year. But by just saying, okay, default to the lowercase first name or the full name if no username is provided in the comment, then automatically it wrote this code. Oh, great. I wasn't going to figure out how the hell to exactly split this string because it's not a priority at the moment that I'm working for, but now it did this for me, and it actually made my script nicer. I have stuff.
this is probably the best bang for your $100 a year now, I would say. one of the
Seriously.
best bangs,
Yeah.
including ChatGPT 4.
Yeah. And
So that's two
here,
hundred dollars already.
these kind of things. So for Terraform to run, you need a DynamoDB table, and it's well known what is the how to say that attribute for that DynamoDB table needs to be. So I wrote this comment, and then in the next line, it automatically wrote this bit of code for me. Could I have made this myself? For sure. Would it have taken me, I don't know, 5 minutes to figure out what's the actual attribute name? How do I format this in this Terraform resource? Yes, also. And now it took me no cognitive load, and I can focus on the thing that I was actually doing, which is creating a script that creates a sandbox for us.
And I think that's clearly the bonus of AI overall, right? We are saving time, we are gaining productivity, we are not losing out. We are just instead of it makes things much easier to fix, right? So my thinking there is if we have a lot of PRs that we need to review, or we have a lot of feature requests, and if we know the feature normally took 8 hours, but will now take us an hour and a half or two,
Yeah.
we would do it much sooner than later,
One
and
of
we
the
would do
places
more
where I find it,
features.
one of the places where I find it challenging, and you'll have seen this as well, is we're hiring, of course, nicely this year. So we had a lot of candidates for. We just hired for a senior data engineer position. We had a lot of candidates, like 150 of them, and then you have to sift through the candidates, and I don't know, 130 of them are garbage to begin with. People who use the wrong name, whatever. Let's not go into that. But one of the challenges is that using these kind of Copilot and other tools, it's become quite easy to circumvent a basic programming task that would test people's ability to code. So I find that one of the challenging bits.
Yeah. So I have some good news here for you. One, it makes it more interesting for us to come up with the tests that they have to solve. So we actually give them enough rope to do interesting things. So we now do have to actually look carefully at the code. And two, even with the ability of ChatGPT, some of the candidates did send us rather awful entries, or not, or they took too much time even with ChatGPT, which means that you for sure know that they're probably not the right candidate for the job. So I think yes, it does increase the load factor in terms of we having to do a bit more reviews as we hire remotely, but I feel like we're it's not so bad. It is just maybe more challenging to come up with more tests, because if all you do is rely on existing tests or simple things like, again, implement a quick sort, or
Yeah,
tell me why bubble versus quick, and
no, I
which
agree with
one
that. I
wins.
think that one of the things that I used to do, I haven't done it this round, but is ask people on a call immediately when they finish the task, because if they understood what they did, they should be able to explain it right there on the spot and not have time to
Y-
think about it or time to look at it, but
yep.
submit and explain.
Yeah, so I found that yeah, sifting through candidates, it was actually it took longer for me to sift through things, but could still see what was interesting and what wasn't, or what they didn't do. So and some were actually very honest to say they were already using AI generative tools. And if you told me you did a test that I was supposed to do in, say, under 2 hours, and I could do obviously faster, then and you took 3 hours with generative AI, you just need a bit more practice, and you'll be there. So
Yeah, and I
actually,
have
I'm
also no
really,
problem if you
really
tell me that
happy
you're
by
using
these
Gen AI.
tools.
Like, you should be
Yeah,
using
yeah,
it.
I'm actually, yeah, I agree. That's actually why I don't give you so much time. I don't tell you go do it over the weekend. I think the problems are actually super. They give you a lot of leeway, and I want to see like how you think as a data engineer. Like, are you going to dump the data? Are you going to read from an API? These are like things that your average chat GPT isn't going to tell you, because it comes with a bit of experience.
Yeah. Hey, you wanted to talk about this planet scale stuff, since MySQL is
Oh yeah,
your flavor.
absolutely. So yeah, I think what Scale did is extremely right for their job, which is basically cutting off the free tier and charging you, I think, a minimum of $40. I think what they did was spend a lot of money on education, getting people to start using PlanetScale, using their variant of MySQL. And their variant is actually, it's obviously a branch. It's very good. It's not feature complete with MySQL, of course. It's got a lot of missing features because Vitess is its base, and Vitess isn't a full MySQL yet, or maybe never will be. We never know. But I think they did what is right for their business, which is to start focusing on the profitable customers, and they have a lot of profitable customers. I also think that a lot of people got very used to using a MySQL backend that was free, but also fairly scalable. And it's also interesting to see that some people didn't realize that your standard MySQL dump wouldn't work, etc. But we're also moving to a scenario where a lot of people are very into using cloud technologies and maybe abstracting the database away from them. And so the free customers are obviously the most vocal because they don't want to pay $40, and they were running
Mhm.
multiple databases. And you could also see the others hopping in saying, "Look, you can try our backend. We're still free, etc." And the irony of all of that is everyone else is actually offering a Postgres hosted solution. So Postgres is not MySQL, as we all know. Um, but maybe this gives MySQL another wind. MySQL will be 30 years old next year and might give it another wind because people might actually realize how easy it is to install MySQL. And or even with RDS where you actually get an almost full MySQL. RDS is probably more complete with actually RDS, to be fair, is more or less feature complete with MySQL with the exception of some features that they disable. It's any cloud hosted service will disable some features naturally. So yeah, I think it's very interesting to see how developers nowadays have decided that they're not really wanting to manage their infrastructure as much. They're more focused on just writing the app and having a lot of hosted services. And we've seen this a few weeks ago, even when David Hannemeyer Hansen from 37 Signals was very vocal about how they were getting away from the cloud. They realized that a lot of the cloud companies would hire the developer advocates, etc., only to complicate things more for everybody else, right? And
Yeah.
they'd sell you good stuff. They complicate things a lot more, and it was so much more interesting for you to do but it's so much better when you realize you could just run stuff basically yourself, like the old Unix philosophy of knowing one tool that does one thing very well and then cobbling them up together. How many people still remember Unix philosophies today? I'm not
Yeah,
entirely sure.
it's funny because I've been since we started Helixiora and we dove into this data world. I've been diving into data mesh theorem, and the one of the interesting things is that I see a lot of things in there that are one-on-one comparable with the Unix philosophy. But yeah, I think that less and less people know about this, and but I think that this starting with a so I see this continuous cycle in everything in IT where there something is complex. So someone says, "Oh, you know what? I'll make this simpler." So they abstract a whole bunch of stuff away, make a simple solution, and then it turns out that that simple solution can do a lot, but not everything. So they bolt on a bunch of stuff, and then a couple of years later, the simple solution also turned into a complex solution, and then we start the whole cycle all over again. And I think AWS is at the end of this complexity cycle. I've been building sandboxes for our developers to join, and the amount of stuff I have to do on AWS to get a sandbox working for someone is not great. These are
Yeah,
all dependable things, like they should all be taken care of. But why do I need to care about this? I don't want to. I want to provide a sandbox to a developer. That's it.
yep. I think there's plenty of thought there, and 37 Signals, even took it further, right? They are like, why is everybody doing all this SaaS stuff? Why don't I just give you a package? They call it once. They sell you a package for, I think, $300, and you can install this on your own Linux instance where they provision everything via Docker. Like a SaaS, they update it every night, basically, and you get a Slack equivalent, but hosted by yourself. And if the hosting is literally just spinning up an instance of DigitalOcean or Linode or Amazon's EC2, and you just enjoy yourself after that, because all you have to do is the software is being updated anyway. I see a lot more people going back to this. Like this idea happened a while ago, like SME in a box, where you could use a mail server out of your box. I mean, why did we stop running SendMail or even Postfix later on? Because we
Because running
realized
mail is
running mail
horrible.
servers was horrible, right? But what if it all came pre-configured like a SaaS, and it was so simple with a GUI tool that helped you more or less make it run like Gmail. I mean, many did try this. Zimbra, for example, tried it, but I think Zimbra's biggest problem was it's a huge piece of Java chunk, and anyone who looks at Java might be better off selling tiles in their future.
Well, I think that it's
Uh,
interesting what you say, because this way of thinking works if you have engineers in your organization. But now, for instance, with Helixiora, we're also doing this business insights stuff, which caters to non-technical businesses. And one of our first customers is a catering company, and the guy just runs a catering company, and he uses four SaaS tools that he has zero interest in running or configuring. He wants to put his data in there and then get his data out, and make analysis based on that. And so what you're saying works for a company like ours or any company that has tech people in it. But I think that this is an echo chamber problem, that people like David are talking to developers and tech people, whereas the vast majority of companies out there are not companies like that, and they don't have technical people, and they will never be interested in, here's a bunch of software, go and spin up something in DigitalOcean and go and run it.
but what if we had the power and harness the power of AI that would accelerate our innovation and make more people be interested in this sort of thing, because you don't have to be a long bearded Unix geek any longer. In fact, a long bearded Unix geek is very unlikely to want self-updating Docker image on a DigitalOcean anyway.
No, yeah, I mean,
So imagine so imagine what AI can do for you and do for us, because don't just think for this year, but think 5 years down the line. And that's where I think people like David Hannemeyer Hansen are good, because the reality is you have all these AWS developer advocates who are out there telling you why you should use DR Stack, but you very rarely find the people who have enough money to go around saying why you should use completely open stack like DHH does, for example. And Open used to pay a lot back in the day when we had just the likes of Red Hat and so forth. But the moment we started hitting cloud services, Open pays a lot less. I would say many would switch to cloud related stuff in terms of pushing the message out there. And if you actually look at a lot of these indie hackers, I don't know if you hang around any indie hackers or these digital nomads that like to build stuff. And one of them is this Dutch guy called Peter Levels. He's quite famous because he likes to make he makes this digital nomad list website. I think you might have even been on it before, Walter, when during your couch surfing days. He's a Dutch guy who is notoriously short the Netherlands, because he spends most of his time, I think, living between Asia, maybe Thailand and Indonesia, and and Brazil. Oh, and maybe even Lisbon. Actually, I'm not entirely sure. But regardless of his digital nomad status, he also just famously writes all his stuff in PHP, and he uses one single PHP file for everything. So
sorry, what? I
he
choked on my
uses
coffee
one
there.
single PHP. Yeah, exactly. One single large PHP file for his entire app. So these apps, they make like, I don't know, a couple $100,000 a month, because they're all like very simple single page apps. And he's one of the people that I'd say, very vocal in the indie hacking community, because he's doing a startup of one, basically. He has no employees. And I have another friend who does something similar, but he has maybe two companies. He does Ruby on Rails apps. but he's also recently started hiring folk. And I have another bloke that I know who lives between, but mostly Indonesia, I think Bali, and he spends. He also does an AI face generation website, and it makes, I don't know, like 50 to 80,000 dollars a month. Basically single with single employee with his wife, and he uses AI tools to help code. And I think he gets like a 80% performance improvement because AI is generating like a lot of his code. So and I don't know if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, Sam Altman was speaking to Alexis Ohanian, and he said that we're waiting for the startup of one that goes to $1 billion in revenue. And frankly speaking, we might already be there. So I'm less worried about the likes of our catering firm not having tech people, because at some stage, he's going to get his 16-year-old niece even to make some magic happen, all with the help of AI. So I'm actually quite excited.
How about we make a startup of 10 do $1 billion in revenue? I know one who could use that. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I I find it really hard to see where this is going in that respect. I
Yeah,
see because
I'm
we're
actually
looking
like
at
super excited because and I've been telling you on things all the time. I don't even have the time to actually interesting things because I found the next interesting, which is just insane. The pace,
you are breaking up.
definitely not a lot of here. None of us here would be like that. We are all like extremely.
I think you're breaking up.
How am I?
Yes. You'll come back. Um,
Because I want to me.
yeah, I'm looking at this levels IO guy. Quite interesting
Uh,
stuff. I think that if you have this knowledge on how to run it all on a single host, that works well. Um, so there's that part of the world, and then the other half of the world is like the enterprise IT world, and this I also find quite interesting because they're also from my previous experience, we've done a lot of how to say that uh, cloud migrations with varying levels of success because those companies have built enterprise IT application landscapes that have like 1,000 applications, and moving all of that to the cloud. There, I have my questions whether that is worth it. No, we totally lost you. Okay. Uh, there, I have my questions whether that is worth it. What I see is that the companies that were doing these giant migrations were having a company culture that wasn't catering towards a cloud native world, and so they would just carry over their problems from hosted to cloud. We have a question from the
yep.
audience. Interesting points that you make. Have you looked into Musk's lawsuit against Altman and the rest? A little bit. I think it's a little bit of mudslinging.
I think Musk is a troll.
Well, yes, he's a troll, but he's also not entirely wrong. Um, he said he would open source Grok this week.
This week,
This week, yeah.
he should, because Gawk's not very useful. I don't know if you've tried it, but it's actually you can't try it. You're in the EU. It's disabled for you, but it's
Uh,
not very useful. It is either in strict mode or fun mode. It's not great. It might be worse than GPT-3 actually.
I don't currently have access to it because I don't pay for X, to be honest. But it brings an interesting aspect to this open source debate. I posted about this also on LinkedIn before. I think that there's a interesting movement happening there where I was at this FOSDAM and Conflict Management Camp conferences, and they're big open source conferences. And one of the debates there was about what is really an open source AI, and uh, official, I guess, for lack of a better word, to make an AI fully replicatable by yourself, you would need the model, the code, but also the training data. And right now, there are very few AIs that are really, truly open source AI. If you look at, for instance, Llama, it's actually open weights. So they give you the model and the code, but they don't actually give you the training data because that's not actually a possible thing, because I presume it's trained on Meta's well, you're on my Facebook posts. So I wonder what, and then actually Meta says that Llama is open source, which to the strict definition it isn't, because even the model and the code aren't under an OSI license. They are actually under a you can use this but not make money off of it license.
Yeah, there's
So
always limitations, right? They don't want to open anything really because it takes so much effort to do all this training. It's super expensive.
yeah, no, yeah, and that's I think that's also totally reasonable and expectable. But then the question is, where does open source land in a world of AI and generative AI? I think that's a
So
valid question. One of the
yeah,
things
any
that I've
more
noticed,
questions? Oh,
one of the things
go
that
ahead.
I've noticed, by the way, on this open source, on Copilot and open source. So what it does is it looks up some of your code in open source projects, and then sometimes it triggers, but then it triggers on a single line. That's just I don't know, open a file and get a few things from it. Like that's great that you found this in an open source project, but that hardly means I'm uh, copying from an open source project. We just happen to have the same code.
Yep, fair.
And yeah, I don't know. I think that OpenAI and what they are doing is quite interesting, because they started as an open organization and then realized they could make an ungodly amount of money by going commercial. But at the same time, they also need to make that ungodly amount of money to be able to advance the field, because from what I see is most of the algorithms and ways of doing things haven't really changed in the last 20, 30 years. It's the massive amount of compute that you can get that actually moves the field forward. So the models are larger, but how to say that, the math isn't fundamentally changing. So in order to get better and to get to some level of human level of intelligence, you will need to throw more compute at it, and compute just costs money, and that money needs to come from somewhere. So I don't blame OpenAI for doing this. It's just a little weird to have a company called OpenAI that isn't actually, open.
Hence the master troll of closed AI. If you
Yeah.
just rename the company, he will drop the lawsuit. So that's why I say he's a master troll. Oh, we have another comment.
What about us?
Oh,
What have we been up to? That's a good question. We have been up to a bunch of stuff. We are now 10 people, as you can probably see on LinkedIn also. So we have the 5 founders and 5 employees. We have a couple of customers, always looking for more, of course. The catering company is quite interesting. So they have 4 SaaS tools that run their entire business, and wanted to have more insight into not each of them, but to be able to get a single pane of glass overview of these of the data that's in the company. And this is quite interesting because it is a small business owner who goes on a data journey. And if you do this in an enterprise organization, you can create this whole program with a whole bunch of streams and et cetera, value, blah, blah. If you do this with a small business owner, he says, I need to see the revenue and the costs of each day, because that's what I look at. And that's how I plan ahead a couple of weeks, and how I look at the past and see where I can make improvements. So it's very practical, but it also means that you can't really start talking about a data strategy to a person like that. You have to show them bit by bit where they are going and what the next steps are. And so one of the things that happens is quite interesting. And I've seen this myself with other things. As you get more structured and more control over your landscape, in this case the data landscape, you start to see minor flaws that you couldn't see before. For instance, in the data world, let's say that you have one of the good examples is the city of The Hague, which we are living close by. It goes in Dutch under 2 different names, and then those 2 different names you can also spell in different ways. So actually, the same city is written in 3-4 different ways, and if you have user-generated input, aka you ask people to enter their address, they will put all different kinds of versions in there. And this was never, this was always, if you talk about it, it's like, okay, this of course is this happening. But then once you start wanting to get insights into your data, you need to worry about those things. And for him, one of the examples was that some of the location names of where he's doing catering they're the same location, but in different tools, they were named slightly different. Let's say these are fictional names, but let's say in one system it was shop in Main Street, and in another system it was shop in the city center. And now you need to spend effort in deduplicating that and building a data pipeline. But for someone who's not technical and who isn't interested in a data strategy, is purely interested in the outcome, it becomes quite interesting, because until you get to the 100% correct outcome, it's not very usable for him. So currently chasing that last percent is an 80-20 rule. The other thing that we've been up to is building MVPs for a product that will release later this year. And
I think we'll follow the release early, release often model, and we might actually even have something shortly.
Yeah. So internally, we hope to have a working prototype by mid-April. So externally, hopefully late April, we can start lifting the veil on that. I don't really want to talk about it too much now, because I think that people announcing stuff before it's actually done should shut up and do better things with their time. So I'll not fall into that trap. But I think we have some interesting ideas, and hopefully by the end of the year we will be doing partly consulting and partly.
Yeah, so we're actually building, not just consulting. Build.
Yeah. And in the more short term, one of the cool things I think we have coming up is a data culture workshop, which is end of this month in The Hague. Physically in The Hague, even though we're a fully remote company and cater to the entire world. In this case, we are doing this workshop locally here in The Hague. It's myself and Joop, one of our other co-founders, doing a workshop where we walk through our data maturity model and let our attendees judge themselves how they are doing on each of those points, so that at the end, everyone should be walking away with a good idea of where they are in their business, in their data culture story, and what they could do next to get better. So currently preparing this together with you, and I think it's going to be super cool. So excited about that too. Is what we're up to.
So yeah, we're about the 45-minute mark, and we have a call in 15 minutes. So burning questions. Should we take one more? Yes. No. It's an event.
Yeah, that is our event. That is the data culture workshop that I just talked about. So
Yes,
that
it
one.
is. It is a link to the event. I was hoping it will be another question.
Um, we don't have to talk the full hour. I think we've done quite well. We have a nice number of viewers. I'm quite happy about that. I think we can uh, keep it to
Repeat this
this.
next week.
We will continue this next week. Well, for now, we'll do it weekly, and then we'll see if bi-weekly makes more sense as we do or do not find value in this. But I really enjoyed talking to you, Colin. Thanks for the questions from the
Absolutely.
audience.
Please give us pressing questions. Come to us with data problems. Tell us more about your failing databases. Tell me when the data center burned down or you lost a server through fire. We'd love to
one of
hear that and
the last
help
things
you
I can
fix
tell
things.
you One of the last things I can tell you is that I'm doing a talk internally for a company here in the Netherlands, and a big enterprise, a big well-known company. And they asked me to talk about different data strategies for different databases. And I asked them, what are your 5 most used database engines? And by far, for them, DynamoDB on AWS was actually the most used database, but like 4 or 5 times more than anything else. So for me, that was an interesting realization. That would be all. Thank you very much, Colin. We'll talk soon, and see you guys next week.
See you all next week. Tell
Bye
your
bye.
friends.
tell,
Bye.
tell your mom.